Hello friends, welcome back for another Neil Slate Presents Fun Pairings with Craft Beer and Food. Again, I'm going to stick with the theme of doing cheeses with beers. I'm going to go simple with some common cheeses, and I try to find some kind of more common style beers to pair with. That way anyone can really try to associate and find something at their local grocery store or liquor store. So the two cheeses I'm going to use is one is going to be a sharp cheddar cheese. Got this from Trader Joe's, but not at all associated with Trader Joe's. They're already cut in slices, makes it easy for just putting with crackers, bread, and easy for my pairing. And then also Cambozola blue cheese. So it's kind of a Camembert and Gorgonzola combination together, and it makes it a little bit of a more creamier blue and not as like sharp as like a Roquefort. So those are the two cheeses. And now for the three beers. This from Thorn Brewing. It's the Barrio Lager. It's kind of a Mexican style lager. So it's kind of an easy drinking, like most people could find a Mexican lager cerveza somewhere. Then we got Society, another local San Diego brewery, and their West Coast IPA, the Pupil. And it took me a second to find a non-adjunct stout, but this is from Bell's Brewing in Michigan. And it's the special double cream stout. It has 10 different grains used in it, but there's no adjuncts. No coffee, no vanilla beans, no chocolate. It's just the grains used for the beer. So with these three beers, it covers a wide range of styles and then two common cheeses, and we'll see how they all interact. All right. Now I want to show you what I see, since you'll just be watching me experience the tasting. I have the beers poured out in little cups, the Thorn, Society, and Bell's. I have a glass of water, my book, my notes. There's the cheeses all sliced up. I have 3 spoonfuls of the Cambozola, bread in between to clean the palate. So this is kind of like my process of how I'll go about this tasting. All right, thank you. All right, let's get to the tasting. So, the Thorn, local San Diego, Thorn Street Brewing, the Baja style Mexican lager. Get a little sweet corn, like cornflakes cereal, like nice, crisp, clean, light toastiness, not like a heavy, just like on a white bread, just a little bit of like toast to it. Nothing where it's like a burnt toast or anything, of course not. So let's see how it goes with the cheese. Got the cheddar cheese here. I'm gonna take a bite of that, and then I'm gonna have a little drink of the beer and see how they interact. Works pretty well. It brings out a little bit more of the creaminess of the cheese. It makes a nice flavor for it. Like the cheese is really the strong component for this. This is kind of a light beer. So it just kind of like helps carry it. It's not like changing it, but I think it just kind of enhances it and just goes well with it. You could think of like nachos or something like that. That's a common thing that you put cheddar cheese all over the chips. And like this beer would be great with it. So I think that's a great example for it. Let's go on to the IPA now. All right, on to Society, the Pupil. West Coast IPA. Very clean. Still got kind of that West Coast bitterness, a little bit of like grapefruit. I do get some grassy, a little pine. Like there's a little bit of melon with it too. It's nice though. Very nice. That Nelson really enhances it. So let's see how it works with the cheddar cheese. Sharp cheddar. Yeah, that doesn't work. It's a lot of contradictory stuff going on. Like, you get the cheddar cheese and it's kind of fighting forces with like the bitterness of the IPA, and they're not blending together. They kind of just clash. Yeah. I think on the end it works a little bit. Like, it has a little lingering bitterness and it kind of like smooths out the cheese, and like smooths out the sharpness, I guess, of it. But like initially, oh no, they're clashing. They're fighting. They're not blending together. It wasn't like the Barrio Lager that just like smoothly went with it and just like worked really well. This, on the other hand, it does not. Alright, let's see how the Bell's Stout works with the cheddar cheese. But first, let me do a little sample of the beer. Do aroma first. Yeah, it smells like espresso. Like a little cup of espresso that you get somewhere, maybe fancy. Little bit of like a bittersweet chocolate. Not as much as a dark chocolate and not as sweet as a milk chocolate, but like you kind of smell like, yeah, that bittersweet chocolate. All right, now for the taste. Yeah, that espresso really hits home. And no coffee was used in this beer, but it's just all the dark grains, the roasted grains in it, and really like impact the beer. Get some like burnt toast, like some roasted nuts. I would say more on like the pecan kind of thing. Yeah, it's kind of like it has a little bit of a pecan flavor. A little bit of that bittersweet chocolate too. Like, it has some sweetness, but not to the extent of like a milk chocolate kind of sweetness, and it's not to the bitterness length of a dark chocolate. So yeah, bitterness, yeah, I definitely get that. So let's see how it works with the cheese. It should be an interesting one. Wow. I like that. Okay, so it makes the like cheese right away very creamy. Like, almost like tastes like a nacho cheese or something like that. Crazy. Like the beer kind of like the cheese is definitely like the one in the lead, but you still get it like hints of the stout with it, and like kind of like the roasted and nutty kind of characteristics are still there. A little bit of the espresso. It definitely like takes away from some of that like richness of the espresso and the chocolate. But like, oh, it's a good combination. It's a really fascinating combination. It like blends well. Like, I was fascinated by how it just like feels kind of like a nacho cheese with it. Like, just from being like a sharp cheddar cheese to being like just like something you would like layer on nachos or something like that. So it's a good one. It's a very like this one enhances the cheese, whereas the Barrel Lager just like went with it. It didn't enhance it, but it didn't like negate it in any way. And the IPA, yeah, that just clashed. Like, they just didn't work together as a pairing. So it's kind of like three different kind of formats for the cheese and the beer. One that works, one that like enhances, and one that does not enhance and just like clashes. Now onto the Cambozola. Since I've already tried all three beers, I'm just going to go straight into the pairing. already have it on a spoon. Since it's such a creamy one, it's not something you could really slice and just hold in your finger, Mike. It'll just be way too messy. So, spoonful of Cambozola. Make sure to grab the right beer. Alright, the Thorn Barrio Lager. Huh. The saltiness of the cheese comes out with this beer. When I initially tasted the cheese, it wasn't like saltiness didn't like come to mind. Like you got kind of the creaminess, definitely tons of the creaminess. You kind of get that like kind of blue cheese kind of feel. But then like as soon as I started with the beer, like the salts really like came to the forefront. And I was like, wow, that's a little salty. So I was like, that's a very interesting like conclusion to come from that. All right, let's try it a second time to see if I pick out anything else from it. Oh, definitely the salt. Yeah. You kind of get the light toast, like the white bread, just that's lightly toasted. Get a little bit of that. The beer disappears pretty quickly after that, though, and it's like lingering with like the Cambozola, like the blue cheese feel for it. Yeah, that was interesting with the salt. Didn't expect that at all. All right. Okay, let's see how the West Coast IPA works with Cambozola, blue cheese. There's the beautiful beer. And cheese. I'm sorry. Now it's not as salty as the Barrio Lager one, but you still get some of that saltiness from it. Kind of get the rich creaminess. It cuts a lot of like the bitterness from the IPA. I like some of the hop profile, like the grassiness, the pine, like the grapefruit, like the old school like bitterness, like that lingers a little bit. I don't get as much as the melon that like Nelson is like usually known for. But yeah, like this, it's still a powerful cheese, even if it's not the strongest of all the blue cheeses. It's still a powerful cheese, so it takes a lot to really hold up to it. So like, it does decent for it. It's not like fantastic by any means, but it definitely works in fine little ways. So we got to see now how it's going to play with the stout. All right. Here's Bell's Stout, the Cambozola. Of the three, this is definitely the less salty of the three. You definitely still get some of the espresso, and it lingers too. Like the other two where the cheese overpowered them, this doesn't overpower. Like the beer still can hold up and still like can fight and like leave some lasting flavor for it. So that is interesting. You still kind of get the roasted malts, a little bit of like the nutting, like roasted nuttiness of like the pecan. I don't get as much of the chocolate though. Definitely not as much of the chocolate. And like the cheese is still there. Like the cheese is still lingering on my mouth right now. Like, it's rich. But this is probably the best of the three paired together, where there's like multiple interactions going, but like the stout still has its flavor profile that it holds on to, and the cheese still holds on to theirs. So they both kind of fight a little bit, but it works. It's not an enhancement, but they kind of like go together, if that makes sense. So hopefully you learned something today from these interesting combinations with some like common cheeses and like common style beers. So give me your thoughts. Let me know any ideas you have. And we'll see you on the next one.